Welcome to Trigger Talk, your place for everything first-person shooters, Battlefield, Call of Duty, and so much more. I'm your host, Sage Goodwin, and as always, I'm joined by Sammy Boy. How you doing, man?
I'm doing very well, man. It is exciting to be back after a little break and obviously a little mini rebrand that we've done.
Yes, a new era for what was formerly known as the Battlefield show.
So it's going to be a very exciting year, I think, and there's plenty of games on the way, as well as a lot of the games that are already out. There's always a lot to talk about. So very, very excited for this year, that's for sure.
So let's jump in, and we're gonna first talk about why the rebrand. And I think it's pretty clear. Battlefield is in a place where it's making a lot of different decisions and making it's not very clear on like the direct future. And obviously, like, we love Battlefield. We're going to continue covering Battlefield on this podcast. Like, nothing's going away. In fact, the format of this podcast is going to be segments, and one of the segments will be called The Battlefield Show. And we're going to continue that legacy that we've built up the past 2 years and continue to talk about Battlefield. In fact, the main topic of this episode is about Battlefield. But during like the downtimes where DICE has decided that they have forgotten how to run a live service game, we're going to be able to talk about other games like the Finals or Call of Duty or any of the Battle Royale games that we're enjoying at the time, or any future games. In fact, we're going to be talking about later on in a smaller segment about the new game Sun and Bone that we just saw more details on, which is like Doom meets Dinosaurs. So we're taking the format that you've come to know and hopefully love of the Battlefield show and bringing it forward to allow us to also continue giving you updates on Battlefield as well as the whole world of first-person shooters, and from the perspective of people that enjoy a variety of games but have a deep love for the Battlefield series. So that's kind of like the overarching view of this podcast. Anything you'd like to add to that, Sammy?
Mostly just the fact that as soon as we done this rebrand, they decided to drop news for Battlefield straight away. So the timing, I swear, our timing with these things are just horrendous. Like,
it used to be so good.
I know. We had that period where it was like an hour before each episode, like before we record, they would drop like the patch notes and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Even if we like adjusted our recording time, like it would be perfect too when we recorded. And then they're like, screw those guys.
Yeah. And now like we've gone. Look, it's been, I don't even know when season 6 started, but it was a very, very slow month, and we slowly started to be, Jesus, that's a long time ago. We slowly started to be like, all right, well, let's transition the show to include more stuff. And we still, Battlefield, I think for both of us, is our favorite shooter franchise.
Oh, yeah.
Probably never change unless they just make like 3 more bad ones in a row. So it's like, we also want to talk about that, but then we want to move on to other stuff.
And talk about the industry as a whole too. Like even if we want to talk about the first person shooter industry and not mention Battlefield at all, we want to be able to do that as well.
That's something I think we both enjoy, is like even outside of the shooter genre, just the general gaming industry. That's something I find we often will end a recording and then be talking about like the game industry.
We'll keep on going after the recording stopped, and we'll just be talking about these games.
So it's going to be I think it's just a good way for us to still do exactly what we were doing. We're essentially not going to cover Battlefield any less. It's just that when there are those quiet periods where, there's not an update for a month and the last update didn't add much or whatever, we can just talk about other games. And I think it's going to be good fun. But like I said, the timing of just like the day that we start this new one, they're like, hey, here's all the stuff you need to know for season 7. It's just, it's just typical, very, very typical.
But I feel like we're setting ourselves up for success, and let's enter the Battlefield show. So the first segment of the podcast, and we'll slowly unveil them as we get to the different topics here. And we've got some fun names for each of them, but they did announce that they basically announced a new timeline of what to expect for Battlefield going forward. And like we suspected last episode or the episode before that, the world of Battlefield 2042 is not going to get any better until that March update. And more than likely, it's looking to be late March from how they've got this timeline set up, because January 30th to February 6th, they are doing a Season 6 extension. They're going to do a Lunar New Year event, limited time cosmetics. They're going to do some quality of life improvements, Portal Squad spectator modifier, improve map rotations, that kind of stuff. February 20th through March 5th, Control Mode is back, and the Archangel Directive event is happening with update 6.4. Allowing, persistent servers updates seems to be happening. Aircraft impact improvements, vehicle gunner, direction HUD, and you can play 2 more maps on the control mode as well. Do we have anything on this persistent servers update? Like, did they just drop that and say nothing else?
Yeah, that's all. Like, I saw a lot of discourse around that. That they just dropped that little bombshell, because that's a pretty damn big that's
what we've been complaining about for a year straight.
Yeah, so the thing that a lot of people were talking about does this mean server browser, or does this just mean, you know how you play a game and then it ends and you go back to the menu and then search again? Generally, a persistent server means you just stay in it, but then that leads to, okay, well, if we're going to be in the same lobby for you finish a game, the next one just loads up straight away, and pretty much, unless they quit, obviously all the people who were in the last game, they stay there. Does that then mean there will be a server browser? It doesn't say that there, but it definitely leads towards, I don't know, it seems like they could do that.
According to them, they said they would never do persistent servers ever, stop asking about it, and now they're like, hey, persistent servers?
Yeah.
So, and then late March, we're going to get the reveal. Probably mid to late March, we're going to get the reveal of the official Season 7. And then it's going to launch more than likely late March. And they say they're going to do 2 maps for the season. Hopefully they do a similar release structure like they did previously, where it's like, we're going to launch with 1 map, and then we're going to, later on in that season, launch the second map.
Yeah, I think that would be a bit silly to do them both at once, even though that would be great also, just being like, oh my God, there's 2 new maps to play on. That'd be so much fun. But I just feel as though now, I don't think seasons are going to be 3 months anymore. I think this is this is going to be happening in the future, that the seasons are going to be longer and they're going to put more in each season, which to me personally just seems like the most pointless. It's not actually changing anything. I think it's more of a PR thing, in that now there's 2 maps per season, so it sounds better, but it's the same amount of maps per month, if that makes sense. So
but let's be serious here. They're rebranding the similar structure that they had in every single previous Battlefield game, where they had updates and they had a big update drop every 3 to 4 months. But the thing here is, we're going to give you less content less frequently than when we gave you all of the other Battlefield games. Yeah,
it just, I don't know, it does reek of the game coming towards its end. To me, it's kind of I even am still curious as to whether this will be I just feel like this could be the big last content drop. If it is in March, we could maybe get 1 map, then in April we get another map, and then if we don't know where in the timeline the next Battlefield is, but it is possible it launches this year, which is mental to think about now that it is 2024. That could happen. I don't want it to happen. I'd gladly take a Battlefield, but I just don't want them to rush it. But realistically, it's 3 years after the launch of this game, so that is generally their timeline. So this could be the final season, and we get, one in March, one in April, and then maybe in May we get a big final update of not so much maps, but the final polish and a bunch of cool skins and just like a bit of a send off type of thing. And then that's it, because generally speaking, they, as does every game, they kind of end support, say 6 months, even sometimes 12 months before the next game launches. So
Yeah.
to me, that's kind of what this smells of. It's like, okay, we're doing 2 maps in this season. They can't keep that up. They can't then go back to 3 months per season and do 2 maps per season. Sorry. So
Yeah.
It's an odd decision that I guess they just think sounds better, and a lot of people might just be like, "Oh, damn, 2 maps per season, that's awesome." But like, it's really not any different than. For example, if the season from October was 3 months instead of, it's essentially 5 months, then we would currently be in season 7. So we'd have one of these new maps already, and then the new season would start at the end of March when the next map would launch, which is around the same time we're going to be getting these anyway. So we are actually getting less content than we used to be. And it just sounds better because it's like, oh, but this one has 2 maps. So yeah, I don't know. I guess they think that works well, and I'm interested to see how it goes and how the community takes it. I hope the community doesn't just like sort of gas it up and be like, oh, this season's so much better than the last, because it should be twice as good as the rest. It's got twice as much time between it, and that's kind of my issue with it. And
honestly, that's true. And again, something that I saw the community talking about a lot is the game is taking a very big shift from where it originally launched. All of the new maps that they're going to have are going to be 64 players only. They're not going to have 128 player options. They are, from the looks of this, it looks like they're going to have 2 more close quarters combat maps as well, which is great. And like you're saying, we had double the time that we've had in any other thing. But it looks like we're going to have about the same level of content if we look back at the other games, except now instead of a map rework, it's going to be a second map.
Yeah, essentially that's how it's going to be. And also, like it's technically even not the same, because they per like 6 months it's still 2 maps. So it's like, that's how it's always been anyway. So it's going to be an interesting one to watch. I think it'll be good. I hope that didn't sound overly negative. I think the way that they've like handled the seasons is I'm a bit disappointed with it, but the content we're going to get, I have no doubt it will be really good. The game is in a good spot, especially if they, persistent servers and all that kind of thing. A lot of like update 6.3 and 6.4, they are both titled quality of life improvements. So they're further bettering the game. There's a bunch of new skins and stuff that are going to be coming, and then season 7 will have 2 maps, and I have no doubt a bunch of weapons and stuff. So I'm certain the content will be really good. It's just I really hope that I hope none of this is at the devs themselves, but I hope the team cops a lot of flack. I mean that in the nicest way possible, not directed at
the company.
Yeah, exactly. Like they need I hope that the community says this isn't good enough. You can't just bundle this in a 6-month season and 2 maps now sounds good. I hope everyone lets them know that cannot work, because for the next game, if this is how it is, the game is going to have to be absolutely perfect for it to be worth playing. Because I think there are games that they don't need crazy amounts of content. You look at a lot of the battle royales, they've got one map. Like they don't need heaps of content. But the reason to be fair, Fortnite does a lot of content, but the reason that doesn't need like a changed map every month is because the game is very good. So the next Battlefield, if they're going to have this cadence of updates, it needs to be like the best Battlefield gameplay we've ever had. And I don't know if I'm confident that will happen. And therefore I think I'm okay to settle for a 7 or 8 out of 10 if there's like a new map every month, because that's at least there's something exciting all the time. So that's just the thing that I hope. Yeah, I just hope the community doesn't like gas this up too much and lets them know, like, look, the maps and all the content and stuff's good. You guys are doing good work. You need to figure out a way to do more work, whether that is hire more people. That's obviously a risky path because it could just lead to the same situation of the launch of this game, where there was obviously a lot of inexperienced developers, and there's nothing wrong with that. Everyone starts somewhere, but a company this big shouldn't. It's not an indie company, you know. You should be hiring from the best. They should be stealing people from other companies. Like that's how this industry often works.
Yeah.
But however they go about that, I just want the community to let them know, like, look, this stuff is good. We just need more of it for the next game. I don't think anyone cares for this game. Like, this cadence is okay for this game. It's all of our expectations are kind of set now, so I'm not like too much complaining for this game itself. But if they continue on this cadence in Battlefield 6 or whatever, then I'll have some negative things to say about that, because we can't have that in another game, that's for sure.
Yeah, and it's really difficult because there's the one side, like, they are continuing to make the game better, but persistent servers are something that they should have had at launch. Portal Squad spectator modifiers and improved map rotations, like, those are things that, like, you shouldn't be marketing your game about. Like, the time period until your next release shouldn't be like, hey, the things that we normally will already be doing, those are the things you should be looking forward to in our game. Like, that's not how this should work. I should not be seeing in your roadmap improved map rotations as a piece of exciting news. That's like something you bury away in your, like, most other games just have like 100 patch notes and then they're like, also we like improved the map rotations. Whereas this, it's like it's on their roadmap. It's kind of what I'm getting at. That the changes are good. The persistent servers and stuff, that's all good. I don't want to be getting update 6.4 marketed to me as vehicle gunner direction HUD. Like that, I do not care one bit about that. That should be the last thing on any patch notes. On the best or worst update of this game, the last thing on it should be something like that. You know, that's not, you can't be selling. I think it's fine when it's like quality of life improvements where overhauling the recoil patterns of every gun, like they did in season 4, I think it was. That stuff's fine when it's like a drastic, like a change that we've all wanted, right? The recoil was too easy to manage and all that kind of thing. Those quality of life improvements are great. And persistent servers, I think, is worthy of being on this. But like, yeah, the other stuff, that's not, that just should not be on a roadmap. It's a little bit concerning for those updates. And that's kind of what I mean with this thing, is that the only thing on this whole page that interests me is the new maps, which is March, probably the end of March. So it's like still 3 months until anything is worth. Yeah.
I don't know if I'll play the other updates. Like, nothing there interests me that much, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like, Control was really fun, but I don't think adding like extra support on new maps is going to be like, yeah, I'm totally going to be like all over this. It's like, okay, fine. Like, I don't know, like maybe the changes to, or the additions of like cosmetics coming back might be like, okay, that's pretty interesting, but like, I don't think that's, for me, something that's like, yeah, totally, this is going to be the thing that that I'm going to be all about.
Yeah, I think that's the common theme with this roadmap, is that this stuff is all for the current player base, which I might add is also good. Like, they should be supporting the people who still play the game regularly and stuff. Mm-hmm. None of it is like big enough, except for the maps, really, is big enough to bring anyone back. And that is kind of where that's what gives me the vibe that this could be coming towards the end, just because was it season 6 actually when they had the like free weekends? I can't remember. It was either season 5 or season 6 anyway. That seemed like they could have really pushed to be like, all right, this game's coming back, you know, like we're gonna send it, and this is going to continually improve, and we're going to keep all these new players engaged, and like bigger and better seasons and all that stuff. That has kind of gone away, and now it just feels like this last stuff is like, okay, like now we're just kind of making sure everyone who still plays is having a good time, which again is important. That probably sounds like a complaint. It's not really. It's more just that is what gives me the idea that, yeah, I don't know how much longer this will last, really.
Yeah, I do question a lot of this because like the highlights that they have on Twitter is like season 6 extension. Get the best out of season 6 with a quality of life update and Lunar New Year rewards. It's like not cutting it for me personally. Archangel Directive is okay. Battle for new rewards and control as you claim and sink satellites. Earn vehicles across 2 additional maps. Oh my goodness. Fight on 2 maps this coming season. Like, I kind of wish that they didn't take the extra time between seasons and we just got like the season kicking off earlier and they waited to have the second map later on announced or whatever.
Yeah.
Again, I don't know the specifics on like how early they had the maps ready. I don't know the specifics on how much work it takes for them to get 2 maps out in a season. I don't know any of that, mostly because they don't tell anybody anything about like the actual processes that are going on inside of the studio. But like, I do wonder like what are they thinking over there? It's very confusing. Am I going to be excited when the new maps come out? For sure. The image that they have here of the new map looks freaking awesome.
That looks like my kind of map.
Yeah,
like urban. I think it's it's like a Chilean map or something apparently, actually you can see the flags up there. Looks like it'll just be some like suburban map. Like finally it's not really the city map that we envisioned, but it still looks like that to me. Looks like it could be like
it's
a Battlefield 4 map or something. Like it does look more even like a Bad Company map. I don't know. It just gives me It just even like Eureka Harbor. It almost looks a little bit like that, and it's just. Yeah, that's the type of stuff I want. So I'm definitely, as much as I'm not overly happy with a lot of the other stuff they've made, the maps will always, they haven't missed with a map in my opinion since the launch maps they missed wildly with those. But I mean, since they've been updating, like since the season 1 launch, they've not missed with a single map. So those will definitely bring me back. I'm 100% going to be waiting there, downloading that as soon as it goes live and playing it. But
yeah,
it's like, more just a bit disappointing that it will be since almost October that I would have played, like 6 months without playing a currently supported Battlefield game. That would never happen. That if you told me leading up to this game, when we started the podcast, that I would just have 6 months off the game while it was being supported, I'd be so disappointed in that. Like that, that should never happen. You know what I mean? Because I'm as much of a diehard Battlefield fan as anyone. I've played so many thousands of hours of this franchise, and it's just the way that the last few months, I guess, or last season has been handled is just a little bit. It's just underwhelming, I guess, is the easiest way to put it.
Yeah, it is the epitome of mid right now, but like it's mid in a weird way because the maps themselves are some of the best maps in Battlefield. Like they have not been missing with the maps, but we don't have any of the specialists anymore, and that was like a big marketing piece of the game. They have most of their content coming from Portal as like the big things that are happening. The weapons themselves don't feel different enough to where I'm like super pumped and excited for them. And it's slowly but surely like making it feel more like you're saying that this is the end of the game. Like they're trying to do one more last hurrah before the next game comes out. I do wonder like if the next game was going to come out this year, we would probably be hearing rumors on it. So that gives me hope that they may wait until 2025 for it, which I'm all for.
Yeah, 100%. Like,
because that'd be 4 years cycle.
Yeah, I think I'm very like torn on it because as a Battlefield fan, like I would love it if it came out tomorrow. I'd be that excited for it. But realistically, they just need to get this one right, and I think the extra year would be like massive for them. And yeah, I think that just comes down to EA. I don't ever blame like DICE and that for that type of thing, because realistically they just aren't being given enough time with the previous ones. So this is completely on EA that I hope they just go, all right, we know that this is a big franchise that we own and we want to make our money and all that. And it's understandable, but they will make more money if they just launch it properly. And I think that needs to be 2025. It doesn't even have to be the end of the year. It could be the middle of the year. Like, you don't have to. The whole thing of like every game coming out in like November has always been a bit silly to me. I get the holiday period and all that, but one, you're then going up against Call of Duty and stuff. That's just not a good idea. Two, It's a multiplayer game, so it's out for ages. It's people will still be playing it in the holidays. You know what I mean? Like, it could launch in June. People will still play it in the holiday period. There will still be new people buying it in the holiday period. They're still going to make sales then. So, yeah, even if it's an extra 6 months, if it was going to launch, say, November this year and they pushed it back to like, May, June, July or something of 2025, even that would be really good. It just feels like it won't be ready. Like, saying that there could be a new Battlefield game this year is just bonkers to me. Like,
yeah,
it sounds way too quick. The current game is still not even, it's in a really good spot, but there's still a lot. They don't even have persistent servers. They're adding that in the next 2 updates. So, like, this game's not finished yet. How are they meant to be finished the next one? So it just sounds too soon. Now, if it came out, I would be freaking out. I'd be that excited for it.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I'm not trying to sound contradictory and say, I don't want it. And then when it gets announced, I'm like, oh my God. Like, I'll be so keen for it. But
yeah.
It's that's my heart saying I want it now and my head saying no, wait. Like, please wait until sometime next year, I think would be the better time to launch it. I just think 2024 is just far too soon for me.
We're simple men. They announce Battlefield, we get hyped.
Yeah.
That's just how it works.
Yep. It could even look bad in the trailers and stuff, and I think I'd still be like, oh, I don't know, I'm still keen for it. Like, I'm very, very. It's one of them franchises for me that I've played so much of it that I'll always just love it. And whenever they show off a new one, even if the last like 5 have been bad, I'm always going to be that guy who's like, oh, but this one could be really good. Like, so that's always going to happen. But yeah, the older I get, the wiser I get, I think, and I'm now being like, nah, I think we need a bit of a break until the next one.
If you look up the definition of abusive relationship, you'll see a picture of Sammy and I with EA and DICE.
Oh, goodness.
And the Battlefield franchise.
Yeah. We legitimately probably need to go to therapy about that.
Yeah.
Like, we would have some genuine mental
If we went to
trauma.
therapy about our Battlefield trauma, there would be no podcast.
Yeah. Yeah, to be fair, this is pretty much, the podcast essentially is our therapy.
Yeah.
All you guys listening are like our therapists just sitting there listening like, yep, okay, that's good information.
Yeah.
Let it out, boys. Just let it out.
Just let it out. Okay. I'm feeling better. Oh, okay. Yeah. So Battlefield, I'm excited for the new maps. As per usual, they're going to be good, like they typically always are. Yeah. So we'll see how it goes and look forward to the future. But moving on, going to the Respawn radio corner of the podcast, I do want to talk about this new game that is a PS5 exclusive, and it's called Sun and Bone. And apparently it's you versus dinosaurs.
It looks mental. And like, I'm actually just watching the trailer still now, and some of these dinosaurs are like not quite dinosaurs. Like I just saw like a velociraptor running on like a human with like blades for arms or something.
Yeah,
So
like with the crab.
It really is like a bit of Doom about it. Very just like odd dungeon crawler type shooter. It looks interesting. I'm very interested to find out more about it.
Yeah, I'm not sure about the ethics of dinosaur destruction. I don't know how PETA would feel about this game. I both think it looks cool, but on the other hand, I'm like, man, that looks brutal. And in the IGN gameplay trailer, when they kicked one of those birds. I was like, what that bird ever do to you?
Yeah.
And then it turns out you play the game and it's like, oh, I hate those freaking birds. They are the worst.
Yeah.
But also like those poor little dinosaurs, like the
I actually
the
remember
little
that
long
with,
neck boy.
with Survivor, the bird that
Yeah.
Cal just cuts its head off. And
Like,
I was like,
straight
in the
up
trailer,
walks
I'm like,
up
what
to
the
it.
hell? Cal would not just kill an animal like that. Why would you show that gameplay? And then when we play the game, I'm like, oh, hang on, I get it. Like, these little birds are so annoying.
Extreme prejudice.
Yeah. And like the opening shot of this trailer has got a freaking T-Rex eating a cow. Like, this game just looks bonkers.
The reason I wanted to bring this up was like a discussion around the breadth of first person shooter games. Like, it feels like it's been a while since we've had something just insane and off the wall as this game looks.
Yeah, that's a good point. I feel like most shooters for the last 5 to even 10 years have actually just been multiplayer shooters, and there hasn't been that. There's been a couple of Doom games and stuff, but like we even got Avatar at the end of the year that was a first person shooter Avatar game. So like, it does seem like they're kind of going back to shooters that are just this like more single player, like whacked out random IPs, instead of it just being like a typical military shooter, which I'm down for. I will always play FPS games even when they're single player and stuff. So
yeah,
I'm down for it. There's enough multiplayer shooters out there that give me some wacky ass dinosaur Doom.
Yeah, it feels like in the last, like you said, 5 to 10 years, maybe even, that multiplayer shooters have just become copies of each other. Like, it feels like each company is trying to make the safest bet on what a first-person shooter game can be. And I feel like a lot of that has to do with the live service and how, like, you have fewer games releasing, but those games last longer. So they are forced almost to have like pretty bland gameplay, but a consistent hook that empowers you or makes you want to have like more cosmetics. Like the gameplay is so bland that you're like, yes, give me the shiny color for my gun, because that's the only glimpse of bright light in my dark shadow of like gray FPS games now.
Yeah. It has become, a very, very like copy-paste era of shooters, which I think is why there's been that bit of I don't want to say the downfall, but like the shooter genre until
it's almost
really
like
recently,
somewhat of a death of AAA.
Yeah, there's been a lot of talk of that too. Like the AAA bubble is kind of going to burst at some point. It's the amount of layoffs and stuff throughout last year. Even there's been some already this year. Like
Unity just said that they're laying off like 1,800 people, and that's not a game studio, but it's the people that make the engine for a lot of games.
Yeah, even just in mobile the industry, games. Discord just today announced they're laying off. I think 17% of the company or something. So it's just like the whole gaming industry. I think it all kind of grew too quick, and they all expanded a lot. And they were like, oh damn, there's so much here to do. Let's like hire 1 million people. And then,
when the pandemic hit, they just had like a bunch of mass hires because of the scale of people discovering or having more time in their days to play video games. Yeah, it skyrocketed, so they needed to hire more people. But still, it's a big problem in the game industry right now. I'm honestly surprised we haven't seen anything from DICE on that front.
True, that is true. Especially with
they're pretty big. They're like
games. Yeah, I think it's like one of the bigger,
over 700 people.
Yeah, I think DICE is one of the bigger studios. It might be like top, I don't know, 15 or 20 in the world. So in terms of like the scale of how many people work there. Or something. So especially with how their games have gone, it is kind of surprising, because there's been games that have done really well, and then they've had to like lay off half the team. So yeah, it inevitably is going to happen. I feel like the way that they're all, it feels weird to me if half of these companies have to let everyone go
Mm-hmm.
and then half don't, because the one, like I said, the ones that are doing well, they still sometimes have to let people go. So it does kind of feel inevitable that they're going to have to slightly
quote
downscale.
unquote have to let people go.
Yeah.
So if you look at Andrew Wilson's yearly salary, I'd say maybe that could pay for a lot of other people's yearly salaries.
Yeah.
Just saying.
It's a bad situation, isn't it? Because, like, for example, I think there was a lot of Activision layoffs. And that Bobby Kotick dude, who just no longer works there now as of like a month ago or less, but
yeah,
he freaking, I don't know how much he made from like the Activision.
Insane. He was the largest stockholder. Yeah, his stock was worth over $691 million.
God, Jesus.
Yeah.
So like, I understand them earning a lot. I don't understand them. No one on this planet needs to earn that much. You cannot spend that. You can't. There is no point in it. So like if that was me, and I know it's easy to say when we're not in that situation, but if that was me, I would gladly, if he's making like, what did you say, 690 million?
Yep.
So like however many millions per year he's making, if I was making
30 million a year,
damn, yeah, like if I was making 30 mil a year, I would gladly just be like, I'll just take 10 million and give 20 million to whatever, like
honestly, like
more people in the company more money, or putting it just back into the company to do whatever. Like, I don't know, who needs 30 million per year? You cannot spend that. I don't care what anyone says. I mean, you can. Who needs a yacht? Like, no one needs a yacht. Like,
the town that the bigger town that I live in is about 16,000 people. So you could give every single person in the entire town $2 million.
Wow.
Off of 1 year of that dude's salary.
Like, that's mental. That's what I mean.
Welcome to the game industry. And that's not even talking about like the big thing that happened with the SAG-AFTRA stuff, right? With AI voice actor garbage, which is related to first-person shooters because the finals did the exact same thing. I don't know if they use the same company, but it is it's a company that you can use, and you can upload voices, and then it creates an AI avatar from that voice. And SAG-AFTRA passed a thing that they said was passed with resounding agreement, but most of the members that I follow that do like voice acting in video games and voice acting in like animation, they were not involved, including stuff like Steve Bloom, who's freaking huge. He's done tons of voices that you definitely know and is a well-respected actor in the space. He wasn't involved in that decision at all, which is just a continuing... It's this idea that you have real acting, which is the TV shows and the movies, and then you have fake acting, which is video games and animated shows, where who cares if they're AI? Nobody needs to see real people in that.
Yeah. It's that whole situation is just an absolute mess, and how they did the whole strike, and then how they've signed off on that, I do not understand. Isn't that
like what the heck was the strike for?
Yeah. Like from what I know about the finals one, because I initially was a bit like, what the hell, why would they do that? From what I've heard, the two announcers in that game, they actually did hire two voice actors to essentially train the AI, so they are their voice, and they did
that's how it works
for it. And so if they've done that and paid those guys as if they did just regular voice acting and all that, then I'm okay with the AI. If that just means then they can on the fly like chop and change the words rather than having to like bring them back in and record or whatever. If they've paid them well enough and they consent to it and everything, they're all fine with it. That kind of thing I'm okay with, where it can actually be a cool innovation that they've in game they can like change the words they're saying or whatever. That's fine. But if they just bring in AI and no one's getting paid for that, like that is really, I think, a really bad look in my opinion.
The only way that that's acceptable in my view is if they have some kind of royalty on that.
Yeah, that's true.
For every single thing sold, because how it works. You have a string of words and phrases that you'd use. You'd have like Apple has a new feature on iOS where you can upload your voice, and you speak these. It's 15 minutes of training data that you give it, and it will do like a version of your voice for people that are losing their voice or will not be able to use their voice in the future. Like that stuff's great because it's not replacing anybody. My problem with AI is if you are using it to replace a human, that's where it's wrong.
Yeah, I agree.
In my particular view, let's use AI to enhance humans, not make art. Like,
yeah, that's the thing. So, like, the whole thing with, say, AI making images versus using like the AI tools in Photoshop, that stuff's great. I use that for my thumbnails, being able to like generate
automatically cut out a person.
Yeah, like stuff like that is awesome. But like, if it removed someone, so let's just say I paid a thumbnail like creator, right? And then I could just be like, oh well, actually I'll just type into like Chat GPT, like make me the final thumbnail, and then I don't have to pay someone. That's so dodgy, like so dodgy. And look, it's maybe a bit different if you're like doing YouTube on your own or whatever, that's fine, but when it's at the cost of someone like losing their job and stuff, I just don't know how anyone can, like, do people not put themselves in the shoes of,
no,
like, well, imagine that was me losing my job. Damn, that would suck. Maybe I won't fire that person for AI instead. Like, I don't know, man. It's just so baffling to me. Like you said, if it can enhance, if you have someone in that job still getting paid, and then it enhances the game or the whatever you're doing, great. Like, we all want better content. We all want the game industry to evolve and get better and all that. But like, it has to be adding on to the human, not replacing the human. And that's the only reason I think at least from what I've been I don't know that for a fact, but yeah, with the finals, the only thing that makes it okay for me is that they've essentially, they paid voice actors as if they did all of it themselves. And then it's just like, yeah, I don't know how. I guess it'll be more in the future stuff that
the real struggle will be the predatory practices of these game studios, where typically they'd pay money for a Steve Bloom to do something, and instead they're like, hey, young voice actor that knows you can't, like, that I know you can't say no to because you're trying to get into the industry and you're trying to make money. How about we use your voice to train our AI model, and we'll save so much money on using this lesser known actor who's just trying to get into the industry. Let's use you, and then we don't have to worry about any of that other stuff because we can pay you for 2 hours of work, and then we can get 200 hours of work from that 2-hour session.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the real struggle.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's so much in the game industry right now that is just clearly growing pains in a way that is taking a lot of this idea of new media, new ideas. Like, I'm surprised Sun and Bone is going to be a thing, because like, if you told me, hey, what did you think, would you like a game that's called Sun and Bone and it's basically Doom with dinosaurs, I'd be like, that sounds pretty interesting, but that's never going to get made. Here it is. Getting made. A sheriff is attacked by bandits and is found on a farm with dinosaurs that he has to protect himself against. Like, it's crazy. It's hilarious. Yeah, I want to see more of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, 100%. That's what I think gaming needs to go back to. It needs to be fun first, and then monetize it, then do what you want to make your money. But like, I feel like games over the last, with the exception of a few, right? There's been some all-time greats, of course, like God of War and Spider-Man and like Elden Ring,
Breath of the Wild,
like that. Yeah,
Tears of the Kingdom.
There's so many awesome games, but there's been so much. The whole live service thing, I don't know if you saw much about the Suicide Squad stuff that came out the other day, but like,
oh no.
Did you see the HUD?
That was Suicide Squad?
Yeah.
I thought it was some like random like JRPG game.
Nope. That is Suicide Squad. and it is a live server. Like it's a single. I don't even know how to describe it. So I think it's single player. You can play with like friends and stuff, but it's like a live service. It's kind of like the Avengers game.
Oh, gross.
In that, yeah,
that game sucked.
That's all I can stop the sentence there, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's like just how that, like, they've made that game and slapped Suicide Squad on it to make money. That's not a game that they thought, let's make a really fun Suicide Squad game. The higher ups just said, let's make money. How can we do that?
And then they quit halfway through the development.
Yeah, it's just, it needs to go back to what, and look, I do feel like it's kind of starting to do that. For example, that Sun and Bone game, like there's actually a lot of games coming out this year that are definitely looking like they're more just like companies making, even like Prince of Persia. That's like Ubisoft has actually done some really good stuff lately where they're making games cheaper. Like Assassin's Creed Mirage was just like cheaper and it was a smaller game, and they just went, you know what, like we're not going to charge you full price for this game. It's smaller than the others. Have this cheaper game that was still really good. They're now doing the same thing with Prince of Persia. It's not quite a full length game, and it's like a kind of like a Metroid type, like a side scroller type of game, and it looks really fun. And it's just like more stuff like that. That's what we need in the industry, and you can still make lots of money doing that. It's not to say live service has to go away. Of course, you can still, especially like multiplayer games. I think the thing that got mixed up there was that they've tried to turn like single player games into live services, which just does not make sense. I don't know why anyone thought that was a good idea. The amount of games I've seen like that where it's like single player but live service. No, a single player game launches, it's meant to be good at launch. It's meant to have a great story, and you just buy the package and you just play it, and then you're done. That's how it should be. And obviously you can have like expansion packs and that, but like they tried to turn them into like multiplayer games, and they sell skins and stuff. That's one thing Ubisoft doesn't do well, is that like Assassin's Creed and stuff, they've got like stores and buying skins in a single player game. Like that's not a good idea. Although to be fair, they have enough in there that, you know, you can still earn them through the game and stuff. So whatever, but the whole industry just took a shift. I think they saw like what Fortnite and all these games are doing, and they just like, oh, that's how you make your money. And it's gone the wrong direction. It needs to go back to making fun stuff, making stuff that it needs to be art again. And it just hasn't been. It's been a business instead of being an art form, which it definitely used to be back in the day.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is trying to fight the growing development time of these games, because like on average it takes 7 to 8 years to make a game. So if there are ways that you can be like, okay, we're going to launch it at 4 years of development, and then we'll spend the next 2 years fixing the game. Therefore, we have 6 years of development, but we also made money up front with people buying the game, and then we made money through microtransactions through that whole process. And I think that just needs to get away in this industry. Like you need to be able to say, hey, we are going to work on this game, and we are going to make sure that when it launches, it is a fully released game. Like I wouldn't say do the craziness that Rockstar does where they release a game every decade, but do something more like, okay, yes, we're going to give it the time it needs, and we're going to focus on quality rather than getting it out the door as quick as possible. Or if you are going to focus on getting it out the door as quick as possible, lower the scopes, make it better for everyone.
Because that's the thing. I think games got too big for a while there, like in terms of like length and scale and stuff. And don't get me wrong, in fact, pretty much all my favorite games of all time are like massive, like Red Dead 2 and Skyrim and stuff. But like, give me a 10-hour game. I don't care if it's high quality. I really don't care. Spider-Man 2, I platinumed in a week, and it's one of my favorite games of all time. Like we don't need these to all be these massive, like it's going back to Battlefield, it's kind of the same thing. They tried to like scale it up, make this huge real life Battlefield and 128 players, and it's just everything's big and grand. And it doesn't always have to be like that. Now, Rockstar making Red Dead and GTA, that's their bread and butter, making those huge games. Leave them to do that. That's fine. Bethesda is the same, right? That's their bread and butter. But like every company kind of, Ubisoft being a prime example, Assassin's Creed used to be like 15-hour games. The last, well, not Mirage, but the last 3 before that turned into like 100-hour RPGs. And it's just like, it's just bloated. And it's just, like I said, go back to just making fun stuff. It doesn't matter about the scale. It doesn't matter about the amount of income. If you make good stuff, people will buy it and you'll make your money back. And that's, I don't know how many times on this. We're in a new era of the podcast and I'm still saying the same.
You're kicking it off strong.
Like, it's, I don't know. I could ramble on about it for forever, really.
Needless to say, support the fun, crazy new stuff that's coming out, like Sun and Bone. This is not sponsored at all. I wish it was sponsored. That'd be great.
Hit us up, Sun and Bone.
Yeah. I've got a PlayStation I'll dust off to to play this crazy new first-person shooter. But yeah, really, really excited for the future. Battlefield 2042. We'll see where it goes, but the podcast lives on as Trigger Talk, and we are going to cover all of the things in the gaming space for first-person shooters and talk about the joys of late-stage capitalism and how CEOs need to be destroyed. Follow us here for more news.
Oh, goodness.
As always, hey, check out all of Sammy Boy's YouTube channels. There's so many of them now, and you need to stay up to date on all of the things Star Wars, first-person shooters, and gaming as a whole. Check that out for sure. And if you are into Star Wars, you can check out the Star Wars Uplink channel. And as always, thank you for listening. We'll see you in the video game world. Hello, fellow gamers.